Hello, my name is Mohamed Al-Yousefy, and I am presenting my proposal to Senator John Boozman, who is a member of the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works and the chair of the Subcommittee on Fisheries, Water, and Wildlife, as well as a member of the Senate Committee on the Budget, to support states with new funds to renew flood control infrastructure. So, a bit of background on all this. Hurricane Harvey struck Houston, Texas this summer with devastating winds, rain, and most importantly, flooding. Now, as we know, Hurricane Harvey is the costliest hurricane in U.S. history, and its climax was on August 28th when the Army Corps of Engineers decided to release water from the Addicks and Barker reservoirs in order to not have it flood certain neighborhoods, and subsequently to the bayou, but instead deliberately flood one neighborhood in order to remove the greater loss of the other neighborhoods. This unfortunately was only a partial success. Only the Barker Reservoir was able to not overflow. Addicks Reservoir ended up overflowing and flooding the neighborhoods was intended to spare. This incident is but a short example of how the United States' flood control infrastructure is failing us, and it is illustrated by the National Flood Insurance Program having a $1.4 billion shortcoming this year between receipts from premiums and from claims. The National Flood Insurance Program was created in the 1960s as a response to private insurers refusing to cover homes that were in the flood zones. So Congress came together and passed the National Flood Insurance Act. And from that, we have this federally administered insurance program that is severely in debt. Today, we have around 6 million buildings in the United States living within the boundaries of the 100-year floodplain, meaning that they have a 1% annual chance of flooding. At the same time, 88% of counties in the United States have experienced at least one types of these flood episodes, these 100-year floods, in the second half of the 20th century, meaning from 1950 to the year 2000. This is very alarming, of course, and is indicative that, one, we are not prepared to face the ramifications of climate change, and two, that the current infrastructure is either out of date or just unable to face the changes that are occurring. So what we have now is many 100-year floods occurring in less than a 100-year time period. The disconnect that occurs is in between the federal responsibilities and state responsibilities. States have the responsibility to ensure that their citizens are living without the threat of imminent flood and have proper infrastructure that serves them. The federal government further supplants the state's efforts. I have a proposal to the senator that to put in money to strengthen the federal-state partnership and inject federal funds to reinforce an already existing system that allows sub-applicants to connect with FEMA and receive money for projects. Under the National Flood Insurance Act, the Community Assistance Program State Support Services element was created. This program allows for communities within states to apply and be able to receive some of the federal funds that are allocated every year in order to either rehabilitate current flood infrastructure or to create new infrastructure. I am going to further propose that this is earmarked in the next fiscal year 2018 budget, that it is to prioritize communities that do not have separate storm and sewer systems. And this is very significant to flood management and also to public health. Many U.S. cities, especially those in the Northeast, the Midwest, and the Pacific Northwest, do have combined storm and sewer systems. And the issue with this is when a flood occurs, a mixing of both waters ends up coming in the street. And it is known that many waterborne pathogens are spread during these events, and also other pollutants. In fact, there are statistics that show that illnesses tend to rise in the city after a major flood event. So this is the framework for the party. We're going with this extra funds. And I have proposed increasing the meager $10.4 million allotted to the CAP SSSE to a whopping 375 million for fiscal year 2018. This is because under this program, states are instructed to allocate at least cover at least 25% of the costs of the projects. And we want to increase the federal state partnership, and this will allow states to have their own mechanism, a way going to the federal government for money, and have FEMA there, which is this program's under FEMA, to help assist them with planning these programs and guidance. A priority will be given for those projects that include green infrastructure, and there are many different forms of green infrastructure that could be used in flood control management. Additionally, we call on the EPA, because they deal with wastewater, to also help with these projects, although this first recommendation of mine does not necessarily include an increase of money to the EPA. And my second recommendation is to expand the number of funds the Army Corps of Engineers that they allocate towards flood control and coastal emergencies, and also increasing the number of their construction funds from 1.09 billion to 1.4 billion. This will be offset by a little bit of a removal from the $2.7 billion allocated towards operation and maintenance, with the expectation that the new invigoration from the CAP SSSE is going to help states figure out their own ways of maintaining their current infrastructure. At the same time, the increase in the CAP SSSE's funding is intended to offset the $1.4 billion shortfall of the MFIP, which is a major problem as the program is currently in debt and claims continue to mount, which is a testament to the greater issue of climate change and all what is associated with it. Thank you for listening.